Welcome to Off-Grid Journey. I am your host, Drew Lamb, and we are going to be covering quite a few topics today. I have two guests lined up today, and we're going to get into wild mountain gardening and extreme homesteading, and later on we will talk about blacksmithing. My first guest today is the wonderful and generous Pen Parmenter, and she is with us live right now from the Rocky Mountains in Colorado, where she and her husband Cord and her son Max farm and garden under some very, very extreme conditions. And I heard about them through Murray Hallam. We were corresponding about aquaponics, and I'm planning to have Murray on the show in the upcoming weeks. And Murray suggested that I contact them because I was actually asking Murray about bioregionally adapted seeds and was looking for more information on that. And so he suggested that I contact Penn and Cord to get some information about that, how they deal with that issue, growing crops in such a potentially hostile environment. Penn, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Drew. I'm glad to be here.
So you have a website chock full of information called pennandcordsgarden.com. That's Penn and Cord, Cords, garden.com. And you guys have a lot of projects going on. You do classes and consultations, and you construct sustainable greenhouses, and you sell seeds as well. Is that correct?
It's true. It's all one big one big job that all works integrated together, just like how the garden grows. Everything we do is integrated together, so it just kind of seems natural that, you know, one thing leads to the next, especially seed saving, which has knocked us out of the park, changed our lives.
So you're growing at a very high altitude. You live at over 8,100 feet.
It's true. It's, for mountain folk, and I'm talking about Rocky Mountain folk, 8,000 feet is considered a pretty moderate elevation unless you've moved from sea level, you know. Right. Then you're keeling over, your lips are cracking, your skin's drying out, you're breathing short, you know, that's what happens. But for us mountain folk, 9 and 10 is where it's getting really gnarly, you know. But 8 is still fairly moderate. You're lucky to get 80 to 90 days here, and you know, climate change can vary that one way or the other, but if you get 90 days, boy, you're rocking.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm at 2,000 feet, and I'm in a Mediterranean climate, so we have some challenges. I mean, we have our seasons, definite clear seasons, and it's very difficult to grow tomatoes where I'm at. I didn't realize that until recently, and I was talking to a guy who heads up the master gardening program here in Southern Oregon, and he was saying that we don't have a climate that's good for growing tomatoes, but I've seen pictures of incredible tomatoes, like huge tomato harvests on your website.
I know, it's true. Well, the first thing that happened when you arrive in the mountains is they tell you everything you can't do. They tell you can't grow tomatoes, the holy grail of the mountains, the gateway drug to gardening, the one, you know, the thing that makes everyone addicted, you know. And they told us we couldn't grow pumpkins or corn or all of these things. You know, the brokenhearted come in droves to tell you what you cannot do because they came here and they brought with them the way that they gardened wherever they came from or wherever their parents gardened and what they learned from them. And it is the Wild Wild West is not only extreme, but it's extremely dry. We are a semi-arid climate, even up here in the mountains. So they, you know, think they can chuck some seeds as if they're in Wisconsin or something, and it's the dry gravel. The wind blows it away, and the hail pummels it to death. And it's a whole new world, you know?
Yeah, my family came from the Midwest. Well, part of my family did. And my great-great-grandfather was a farmer in Kansas. And eventually he made his way over to Colorado. And he and his son thought they were going to do some farming in Colorado. Mm-hmm. And completely failed. They didn't realize how rocky the soil was. And he was not just a farmer, but he was a blind farmer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and
wow.
Some incredible stories about Link is that was his nickname, and so he ended up raising horses instead, and he would break and train horses. So
he adapted. He adapted,
but I heard stories from when I was a kid about how difficult it was to farm in Colorado. So,
yeah, especially a farm where if you're thinking about plowing a field or something like that. It's a very different world here. When you're semi-arid, the air is just wicking away all the moisture out of the soil, so you have to figure out ways to contain that soil. You know, Colorado's half desert and half mountains, and the desert is 5,000 feet above sea level. So it's pretty intense. You know, they're high and hot, we're high and cold. You know, so both of those things are somewhat similar, but also basically they're extreme and they're stressing the plants. And, you know, for us, besides putting our head down and figuring out ways to grow tomatoes at 8,000 feet, we only recently, in the past 5 or 6 years, we went to seed school, which I highly recommend, which you can look up seed school and find them all over the country now. They're traveling. And we blew our minds that this huge part of gardening that we were leaving out, seed saving, that after World War II, Americans didn't have to save seed anymore. We had tons of abundance, nice stores that you can go buy the seed. And we stopped, but other countries didn't stop. And so a place like Siberia, where, you know, their mountains are bigger than ours, meaner than ours, colder than ours, and they don't even have roads, seed saving is the only way to get seed. They have very amazing seed swaps, and everybody shares seed because they have to adapt it to those extreme conditions. And that has been an amazing change for us here. So you started out with seed that would have the greatest chance of surviving in your climate, but the plants will adapt over time. Murray was telling me it takes about 5 generations. You know, that's so interesting. I see the seed begin to adapt the second it's born, and then I see the plants begin to adapt and learn the very first year you grow them here. They're taking in the information. They pass that information through the seed into the next generation. So every year you save that seed, it learns and stores that information, then brings it into the next generation. So 5 years is, you know, that's a generalization, but I see it happen much quicker. Most people think, it's this 40, 50-year thing, like, you know, like it's going to take your lifetime. Well, if you're gardening your whole lifetime anyway, you could really change a variety if you wanted to. But even in the first year, when I saved my tomato seeds, I put all the saved seeds in a flat next to all the store-bought seeds in a flat, and the vigor and the germination rate and the amazing ability of those seeds was, you could see it with your naked eye immediately, how different those tomatoes were coming out of the ground. And I was blown away. But that's the thing. Seed is perfect. It has a self-replicating program in it and an adaptation program. It begins to learn your exact place on the planet immediately and stores the information. So here in Colorado, every year is completely different, and we are wide open to snowing in June and freezing August 1st again if you want. Everything happens. 2012 was the hottest year we've ever seen, and 2013 was the coolest year we've ever seen. And the seed was saved from both of those years. They're storing that accumulative information so that when Colorado delivers another extreme year, it's at least got that information backed up. And so the power you feel saving the seed 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, you just start getting crazy over it because you're wielding the universe, you know. You feel like you're king. It's fantastic.
Right. That is amazing. And I like how you put it in terms of data. You know, so the plant's collecting this data.
That's right.
And passing it along through the seed. It's completely amazing. Now, you and Cord grow in 2 regions, basically, you know, on your property. Is that correct? You have more of a mountaintop garden.
It's true. My garden is up on the decomposed granite and in the trees. The trees protect the garden so much, and we have way too much sun in Colorado to be able to handle 12 hours of sun. We can use up to 5, and that's equal to 12 somewhere else. So dappled light, full shade, half shade. I can grow in all that. Plus the trees catch the frost, they catch the hail, they mess up the wind a little bit, and they help. And so I'm digging on the rock and going up with my raised beds, using all native soil and native materials, our sand, our horse manure, and our native soil. All native soil can be turned into something better. So I'm always encouraging people to work with the soil they have, and adding organic matter. That's what's going to get the job done. The Cords Garden is at the bottom of the mountain, and that's where all the soil is. These are very ancient mountains, and so when you look at geography, right, the rock stays up at the top and all the soil washed down to the bottomland. So you really should inspect your property anywhere you live, that you could have deposits of soil, sand, other materials that you may not have thought right away because you just turn the shovel in one spot. We go down there to the bottomland, and we have this incredible topsoil, this loamy, rich, mineral-rich mountain soil. And that's another thing. Colorado and all the West gets a bad rap for its soil. But this is mineral-rich mountain soil that's trapped in valleys. And so it doesn't go anywhere. And it's very wonderful stuff to start with. And, of course, we lack organic matter here in the West. So we add organic matter, lots of it, and start making killer soil. So down at the bottom, we do biointensive, where we are growing much more food in less space with less water. We have water issues here in Colorado. And up on the rock, we're growing in raised beds, either wooden or rock, and on top of the rock, which gives you good drainage, certainly. And I have no ground animals in the top garden. And, of course, we're deer fenced, and we should be elk fenced, but we're lucky. We're not lucky. The elk have changed their migration pattern, so we don't have them anymore. But 8 feet for deer, 10 feet for elk, or elk will attempt 8. They are flying horses. Wow. That's what they are. Wow. And they're heavy, 800 pounds on the hoof. When they go in your garden, it's going down, okay? They're going to drill holes in it.
I have problems with these pesky tree rats in the garden. And they usually live on acorns. There's a lot of oak trees on the hill where I live. And they'll eat those, but they just get into everything, and they'll tunnel into my greenhouse, and they'll get into my aquaponics system that's out on my patio, and let's see, this week they ate my spinach seeds, and they ate my chard seeds that I just planted in my aquaponic troughs. So I'm going to have to screen those off. I set some more traps. I think I need to get some cats.
Yeah, cats are very good. Definitely plant some catnip, though. Keep your cat happy, and then she'll bite the tiny heads off of those critters for sure.
Yeah. It's really a problem. It's bad enough dealing with the bugs. Do you have a lot of insect problems?
Well, the higher you go in elevation, the less those problems are. But of course, we still do. The fierce bugs are fierce. We get flea beetles in the spring, and what do? You replant your kale and your arugula, or you wait a couple of weeks and plant it later after the big infestation comes, or you plant them a nice little trap crop and let them have it, and then plant again. And by the time that second crop's up, the things they love, the brassicas, the Chinese cabbage, all that stuff we plant early, and they come early. Mm-hmm. So you learn to sort of mix it up so that they move on sooner than later. Right. We get of course in the greenhouses, all bugs can cycle through our greenhouses, but I fear no bug. I fear no disease. I got a shop vac and a power hose, man. Good go.
Yeah, that's a really good idea, actually.
The shop vac will set them back on their heels.
Yes, it will. That is a really super good idea. Now, what other adaptations have you had to make? You said that you use less water than traditional farming. What kind of adaptations have you made to conserve water?
Well, that I would directly say. For one thing, we hand water. That's for a reason that's kind of dumb. We don't even have a water system. We just hand water. But hand watering allows you to water what needs to be watered and not water everything else, the same. Certainly perennials and other things don't need the same water. And all the vegetables need different water, too. So you can hand decide that and be very close with your plants then to know what's going on because you have to water them every day or every other day. But biointensive gardening, without a doubt, and this is the work of John Jevons, who wrote the book How to Grow More Vegetables. He's been around for over 35 years, saving the world, teaching people how to improve soil in places where there's only sand and they carry water on their heads. And it creates a bed that they keep improving, that keeps cranking out the food with the least amount of water possible. And it's the way you develop the bed and prepare it. It holds water. He calls them living sponges. And here in the West, we have to cap them off. We have to mulch everything because the air is so dry that it's just wicking away the soil. So combining biointensive and good old-fashioned mulching, we have some serious water-holding beds that crank out the vegetables. And also, we are equidistantly spacing, which is a part of biointensive growing. So there's no rows and there's no wasted areas wicking away moisture, and we never step on our beds and never compact soil. So the plants become their own living mulch because they are equidistantly spaced. When they're mature, they should all be touching, creating their own canopy, and then you have less weed problems, they hold the moisture in better, and you're getting 4 times the yield out of a row-planted bed. Because row planting is for farmers and tractors and horses and machinery. But for the home garden, row planting is you're wasting over half your space and compacting it and wicking away your moisture. So it's interesting, to think of it that way, but biointensive, I tell you, it has blown me away.
And how about your hoop house designs?
Well, our hoop house designs are all about summer growing tomatoes. Mm-hmm. We design and build smart greenhouses, and we are launching this business right now. Our greenhouses run 100% of the time with zero fossil fuel, and it is done with stored water, which is why aquaponics can be a good marriage for one of our smart greenhouses. You can count your fish water, although it's a little different depending on the fish you're growing. But the water is how we live on the planet. If we were on a planet with no oceans, we would be Mars, 300 above zero, 300 below zero. We died every night and every day. But the ocean stabilized the planet, soak up the excess heat that would burn us up and releases it at night. And that's how we can live on this planet. Well, one of the ways. I'm no physicist, so all of you physicists out there, please don't laugh at me. This is basic, simple science of observing the Earth and emulating what the Earth does. And this is how the Earth stabilizes temperatures with water. It is the most efficient thermal mass on Earth, 4 times more efficient than any other thermal mass. And that's why we like to use it. We fill our barrels one time for the rest of their lives, and they sit there and act as batteries. They take the heat out of the way, and they keep circulating because water circulates, so it can take all the heat out of your way. And then as the greenhouse cools off, the heat is released immediately out of the water and chases the cold back across the room, and long before you're going to lose your heat energy out of the water, the sun comes up again. So our biggest test for our greenhouses was 31 below zero, and the tomatoes survived. And that is a tropical plant.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's what our claim to fame is. And this design, this has been around for a long time. These amazing scientists from the 70s learned this. Bill Yonda's book, The Food and Heat Producing Solar Greenhouse, this old hippie book. They're hippie scientists, man. They got the long mustaches, the curly perms, the little culottes, everything. And they are so smart. They are so right on. And they built all of these greenhouses in the desert Southwest. Then we all went to sleep for 30 years. Now we're awake saying, hey, man, shouldn't there be a technology around that doesn't require us to put fossil fuel into a building that can't hold it?
Right.
It goes and out it goes. As I say in class, it only makes sense if you don't think about it.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, so we figured out a way to store that heat and cool the greenhouses. We use natural convection to move the air. That's low vents and high vents in opposite and equal positioning. The air has to move whether the wind is blowing or not. So I often go into my summer greenhouse in a tower of tomatoes to cool down from the heat of the sun and sit there and let that air move past my hot face. And I tell you, it's how we raised 3 boys, is that I have that sanctuary. We have a very small house and 3 very large boys. And I go there and shut the door and talk to the plants.
Yeah, my greenhouse is my sanctuary. I found my bliss in my greenhouse, and that's why I tried to turn it into a business. That's why I started my aquaponics farm.
Great, because where else could you be happier than surrounded by the things you love like that? If you can turn it into your job, it's just like, oh man. I mean, I'm feeling pretty happy with my little self here on my mountain. We never saw this coming. We just started growing. We didn't have running water the first 3 years. We started our first bed immediately. We moved in 3 feet of snow, when everybody telling us we couldn't do it. And if you wait to do everything you're going to do in your life until you're retired or whatever, the stars are aligned, you're going to miss it. So I don't mean to preach. I'm just saying, do it now. Live your dream now. Yeah.
Right. I agree completely. You have to, when you find that thing. I have friends that contact me fairly often wanting advice about starting a small business. I've owned businesses for most of my life. I started my first business when I was a teenager, and I always tell people, find that one thing that you excel at, or the thing that you absolutely love. When you have time to do something, what do you do in your spare time other than watching TV or surfing the internet? But if you've got some kind of hobby or activity that you just fall back upon, that you just do when you can do anything that you want, that's the one thing that you will probably have success in your life. And if you could figure out how to turn that into a business, then you'll have success on multiple levels. And I've seen a lot of my friends do this. Mm-hmm. And so it appears that you and Cord have been on this path for quite some time, where Cord's also a master blacksmith.
Indeed, that's what he's made his living with on this mountain for all these years, which, doing iron art in the woods is not going to make you rich. But we've always told everyone, we don't have any money, but we're the richest people we know. And now with the greenhouses, though, have really been taking over. The demand for a smart greenhouse is it's scaring us a little bit. We've had to actually go get some help from the Small Business Association to help us because we're growing too fast. We can't keep up with the demand, which makes my heart feel so good to know that people are actually asking questions about what they're doing or what they're choosing or why we would pump fossil fuel into a building that can't hold it. And these greenhouses are, they work better than we can ever tell you, and they crank out the food 365 days a year at any elevation. It's really amazing. But this whole lifestyle that we live here, we wanted to develop a piece of land. We wanted to move onto land. We moved onto it raw in January in 3 feet of snow with a camper and a wood stove named Leroy. And that's how you do it. We were 25 years old. We had no money, and we did it anyway. So, again, start failing, start making mistakes, dive in, skin your nose, whatever. That's how you learn. If you're not killing plants, you're not trying. If you're not, if you're not failing, then you're not learning. So, and in wild, extreme places, you got to get out there and get to know your environment. Be out in it, and you will understand how it works better by observing it,
Right, and be flexible and adapt between the adaptations of your plants and your own personal adaptations. You can figure it out, and so you're not really fighting Mother Nature. Mother Nature seems to want you to succeed in this endeavor.
I think so, and we've been working along with Mother Nature, being as respectful as we can. We're trying to learn from her and emulate what nature's showing us here. We have these ancient trees here that are 1,000 years old, and they hardly have any water. How do they do it? They teach us, and by observing nature around you, wherever you live, you can make really much better choices to have success in gardening or seed saving or whatever. It's just like with seed saving. If I'm looking for earliness, right? I need a tomato to come on early and strong, so the first tomato is marked as the first early tomato. Now I know that seed is going to give me an early tomato. I didn't save it for flavor. Later I might find one that tasted better. I'll save it for flavor and mark it as the best tasting tomato. Now I'm saving for taste. Well, up here I need earliness, I need cold hardiness. If they make it through something hard, then I'm great because the seed remembers. And I have just that much more time on that seed to give me a stronger crop. But nature does it too. What can stand the hail? What can stand the wind? You look at the plants and you see how they're doing it. I'm planting under the trees because in nature, that's where all the wild lamb's quarter grows, and where the grass grows is under the protection of the trees. So I realized that, and then I find out that the trees also catch the frost. The trees shade from too much sun here in Colorado. The shade, they catch the hail. It's incredible. And then the pine needles mulch my beds. So I don't even have to mulch them. And I love being a part of that,
Right.
I'm honored to be a part of it, actually. It's the earth is outstanding and knows how to do all of these things that we'd have lost faith in and don't think the earth can feed the planet, the population anymore. The earth can feed it over and over and over again. We're just too dumb to realize how.
Yes, exactly.
The lie that was given to us by the biggest money in the world, the biggest money in the world, petrochemicals, oil, gas. We can't fight them. But we can save our own seed and learn how to grow our own food and take control of our backyard before they try to stop you, because they are working on that, wanting people not to be able to grow organic gardens anymore. And when you have adapted seed, that's the thing they're the most threatened by, is adapted seed to your region. So seed swaps, seed libraries, creating networks of people growing seed, it is a kick. I'll tell you, you will get back more seed than you ever imagined. You will stock your pantry with seed for the rest of your life. And seed shelf life, ask the earth how long the shelf life of a weed seed is. Don't listen to a seed company telling you that it dies after a year. These are perfect, living, breathing embryos, and they wait until conditions are perfect. They can last hundreds of years, even thousands of years. So I'm germinating seeds from the 40s, 50s, 60s, and bringing back varieties that are lost. And it is a kick. I got to tell you, you will become addicted to seed saving if you start. Even marigolds, okay? Save your marigold seeds. One head gives you over 250 seeds. So you're set for years to come, and they make great gifts for people in your region.
Yes, I save seeds, and I have on my second generation of basil, my Thai basil, which I sell to local restaurants, and I have heirloom tobacco. I grow some Havana tobacco, and I'm on my second generation with that, and I'm actually doing that in deep water culture in my aquaponics system right now as an experiment, and it's working pretty well. And I have, I think it's my third generation of coriander growing right now in my aquaponics system.
Isn't that great that you didn't have to go out and buy coriander seed again when the plant loads up with seed?
So, I go through a lot of Thai basil, and so I toward the end of last season, I let that crop go to seed.
Perfect.
Because I usually cut and come again, so I get more out of my plants like that. And so I let it go, and then I have my helper come in, and we harvest the seed, and then we replant it, and now the crop's thriving. And
doesn't it feel great? Doesn't it just feel great? Even on that one thing, it's got to make you feel empowered, and I know how it makes me feel to have my own seed. I just feel like queen of the world, sorry. Cord's king of the world. Hey, listen, Drew, are you aware, of course, that tobacco kills tomatoes?
Yes, I wanted to get into that with you.
Great.
The mosaic, was it the mosaic tomato virus?
It's the tobacco mosaic virus, and tobacco pretty much carries this disease, and we'll jump it right onto tomatoes. They're from the same family, and they share it. Now, I have read that they share it with peppers and eggplants as well, another nightshade, but I haven't seen it myself, but I've seen it with the tomatoes, and smokers get tackled at my gate, not in an unfriendly way. I just need them to wash their hands before they touch anything in my garden, and I don't let them touch the door jamb of my greenhouse because I'm going to be putting that tobacco right there on my tomato greenhouse. So a lot of people will struggle with tomatoes, didn't realize if they have a smoker in their life, or they don't wash their hands before they handle the plants.
Yes,
it's a slow, cruel death.
Yes, right. Yeah, people don't think about that at all, and I heard. I don't know, maybe this was just something that stuck in my head from The Simpsons, but they'll cross-pollinate, and you'll get tomacos.
Oh, well, then that'd be fun. If that tomato could survive that, then you'd really have something, wouldn't you? Hey, I'm reading on here really quick what somebody was mentioning about finding their dad's seed set stash, and that's something I want to be sure to say, that those old tins of seed that are in somebody's cellar are your grandfather's seed, and he's long passed, or great-grandfather, you dig that seed out, that is precious gold. Not only can they be still absolutely viable, but there may be a lost heirloom in there. There may be one of the heirlooms that the giant, Monsanto's and their friends are buying up and ditching all that regional seed. They don't want us to have that regional seed. So when you find old seed or an old tin, you go through that and you try to germinate some of it. Bring that seed back. And if you don't want it, you can call me and I'll take it. I don't care where you're from. I will revive that seed again. And after you brought seed back from 50 years ago and now it's 1 year fresh, again, the sense of accomplishment, empowerment, whatever you want to call it, wielding the universe really comes down on you, and it feels so cool. I have been able to bring back a couple of tomatoes that are no longer with us, and it's a thrill to introduce them to the market again, or just to my peers and my friends, But don't let those old stashes of seed go away. Get them in somewhere. Get them to a grower, to somebody you know, or call somebody that knows something about seed. You'll be amazed at what you could bring back to life.
Pen, you have seed for sale through your website. Is that correct?
I do. I do. It's mostly tomatoes, of course, high altitude tomatoes or extreme condition tomatoes, including heat.
Uh-huh. And so, again, that website is penandcordsgarden.com. Do you guys have a Facebook page?
We don't. We haven't joined the Zuckerberg yet. And, it's that owning my rights to my pictures. I got to learn all that stuff because I'm in the woods hiding. I got my pictures. I'm like, yeah. I don't want to, but we will one day soon. So meanwhile, we're just off our website.
There's lots of information on there, and you have a fantastic blog. And you have your classes and consultations if people are in the area.
That's right. That's right.
Wow, you've got a long list of classes that you've done here, and you have some things coming up, it looks like.
Yeah, and we have a tour this fall, the Vegetable Walk of Fame. Folks come to see, because I'll tell you, when there's corn waving at 8,000 feet, then they believe. Otherwise, they don't believe. There's a pumpkin bigger than your head at 8,000 feet, they believe, We're growing this ancient glass gem corn, this famous corn that the whole world wanted, and we had a complete failure last year. And this year, we got it up 3 inches tall, and it's frozen twice on it now. And I'm beside myself. Wow. I'm out there replanting. I'm covering. It's like we're freezing in June, and we're going to freeze again Wednesday.
Oh, boy.
So I'm holding the tomatoes back. That's all I can do, But some other years, it could be 100 degrees in May, and yeah, that's the cool thing about Colorado. You start with a clean slate every year and an open heart.
Uh-huh. I've got it easy. I'm in a warehouse at 2,000 feet.
The climate doesn't change very much in there, huh?
No, I have to create that climate. that has its own challenges. Pen, I really appreciate your coming on the show, and I'd like to have you back again sometime, too.
Great, I would love that. There's lots more to talk about.
We've just touched the tip of the iceberg.
That's right.
I really appreciate it. So let's keep in touch. And again, this was Pen Parmenter. You can find her website at penandcordsgarden.com, and you can learn about extreme wild mountain gardening and homesteading through their website and their classes. And they also have mountain seeds for sale and sustainable greenhouses. So, Pen, thank you very much. And
thank you.
Our next guest is the amazing Devin Martin. Devin is the son of Dana Martin, the unnanny. And Devin, I just want to make sure that we are connected here.
Yeah, hello. How are you?
Welcome. So you are Dana Martin's son, and you have been unschooled. This isn't homeschooling, this is unschooling. So I've had Dana on my other show, Double Cross Radio. She was a guest a few months back, and she's one of the pioneer of unschooling. And so you've been given the opportunity to pick and choose what you want to learn. You don't go to school. Your mom doesn't put together a curriculum for you. You've just you're just left to your own devices, and I've come to understand that you're into off-grid living and, in particular, blacksmithing, making tools and knives and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. Yes, that is true. I've been blacksmithing for a long time now. I'd like to say that I am a blacksmith. That's what I do professionally. I have a store. I sell knives and tools, and all of it was learned on my own. No one taught me. All I learned was through books and the internet, and
Devin,
a lot of people.
How old are you?
I'm 15.
You're 15 years old, and you've started your own business, and you make your own products that you sell.
Yes.
That's incredible. I thumbs up to you. I always try to encourage entrepreneurship. I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs, and I thought that, when you grow up, you figure something out and you start a business. And you've figured that out, and you basically, through your own quest, discovered this blacksmithing that you liked and you're good at, and so you're self-taught. How did you find the information that you needed to become a blacksmith?
Well, I think what a lot of people don't know how to do is learn by themselves, and a lot of people have learned to be taught and not to teach themselves. I've used the internet and books. No one has ever taught me anything besides internet and books, but I feel like I'm.
So you didn't take a class at the community college or anything like that. You just started doing this, and
I've never even.
Now, to be a blacksmith, I mean, you're making tools, but you have to have some tools to start with. You have to have some things. You need a forge. You need an anvil, right? So you had to build these things, in order to do this. So tell us about this journey that you've gone on.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you from the very beginning. A long time ago, probably when I was about 9, I don't know even where I saw it. I don't remember what persuaded me to start, but I wanted to forge a knife. So I went out to a fire pit and I used, a nailing hammer with a stone to make what I thought was a good knife. It was terrible. It wasn't even sharp, but I bent the metal and I was like, oh wow, this is amazing. And I did a little bit of research on it, and at the time I was so young, I didn't have the ability to take it anything further than that. So I sort of forgot about it. I went on for a couple of years doing, whatever I was doing. And then I had just the random idea, oh my gosh, I bet I could do that now. So I went out and did the same thing, fire pit with a stone and a hammer, and I tried to forge something. It barely worked because I was using pine. It wasn't heating up well at all, but I was really enthused, so I wanted to do it. I knew I had the resources to be able to do it, so I got charcoal, I found some bricks, and I found a blow dryer, and I set them up, and I built a really makeshift forge with a blow dryer as the bellows, and I used charcoal, and I just used some random scrap metal that we had, and it was getting really hot, and I was using a hammer on a stone. It was working, and I was really excited. I loved it right away. So I kept evolving and gathering more things. I eventually got a better forge. I rebuilt it. I moved it to a different area. I rebuilt it, and I got a different stone that was better and harder, and I got a ball-peen hammer. And I was really loving it. I thought I was doing it really well. I mean, looking back on it, it was terrible. But so then I completely forgot about this. We literally have a blacksmith that lives next to my house. So I went over and left a note. I wanted to talk to him. He gave me an anvil, and that was kind of the bullet point of everything. That was kind of the thing that really pushed me over to be like, okay, I'm doing this now. I'm going to do this. So I kept working on it. I started using coal instead of charcoal, and the way the forge was built, it really wasn't efficient. So I needed to know. I knew that I needed to evolve. So I started looking at the junkyard for different things to build a much better forge. So I found a old metal school desk, and I found some more supplies, some pipes, and some things that I needed, and I built it. I was still using a blow dryer. It was coming up from the bottom, and it was working very well. I could melt metal, I could weld with that heat, and I'm still using that forge today. It broke once, I had to fix it. But I was still doing it outside, and in the rain, I couldn't do it in the rain. I barely could do it in the winter, because we get so much snow here. Mm-hmm. And I was looking up different methods of building, shacks or whatever. I was trying to figure out how I could do that, and I knew I could do it, but I would have to save up a lot of money to, buy the supplies to do that or buy a shed. And then I realized we have a storage shed full of random stuff we really don't need. We're just using it for storage. So I asked my parents, can I please use this as a forge? And I said, of course, just take everything out and, yeah, it's yours. So I immediately cleaned out the shed. I built a table. I built shelves. I set up the forge. I had to make a chimney. But yeah, that was it. I have my own building now. I've been there for a couple months. And, yeah.
How are you selling the products that you produce?
I'm using Etsy primarily. I'll just make some knives. I primarily make knives right now. And I've been selling those on Etsy.
And what is that?
Etsy?
Etsy. Yeah, I've never used it.
Well, basically, it's sort of like eBay, only it's all handmade things or vintage things. They have to be handmade or vintage.
What's the URL for that?
It's just Etsy.com.
ETSY.
It's ETSY.com.
Okay. I just I want to drop a link for our listeners.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
In the chat. So we're live right now. Also, phones are open if anybody wants to call in. If you guys have questions or comments for Devin, feel free to call in. The number's right up there at the top of the page. 1-718-717-8296. And we could patch you into the conversation. And to our folks in chat, I'm dropping the link in there for Etsy.com. I guess I'm kind of a dork. I didn't know about this. There's a lot of neat stuff on here. You got art, home living, jewelry, women, men, kids, vintage, weddings. Yeah, I hadn't been on it before. That's really cool. So you have an account on here. You sell your knives on here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my shop is Willow Ironworks. If you search that on Etsy, it should come up. I don't have a lot on there right now. I've been taking a little bit of a break from selling because I've been at a conference, and I'm having a large get-together right now, actually. I'm taking a nice break from that to do this, but I haven't been making knives for the past week or so.
Oh, but, only a week. I mean, everybody deserves a vacation. So how much of your time do you usually spend doing blacksmithing?
A lot. I mean, it's hard, it's not one of those things you can just get up and do. You need the supplies, you need the skill. It takes a long time. I've been doing this for about a year now.
Uh-huh.
It depends on what I'm making. Usually, at night, I'll think, maybe I'll try to make this tomorrow. And then the next day, I'll wake up, I'll eat, and then I'll go out and do it, usually till it's dark out.
Mm-hmm.
I spend most of the day, doing this, so probably about 6 hours. Mm-hmm. Not every day, but some days are 6 hours, some days are 4 hours. It depends on what I'm making and how much of it I'm making. Mm-hmm. Some things take a lot longer, but...
Yes, and do you find that your skills are improving?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd imagine this is something. There's a pretty steep learning curve to it. Trying to get things right, figuring out how hot to get the metal, how to shape
Oh,
it,
yeah.
what tools you need to work it, and so on to get it down. But I'm fascinated by this. I've learned how to do all sorts of things, but metal fabrication is something that I never put any energy into. I always want to learn how to weld, for example, and that's something I'll figure it out one of these days. But I'm with you. I am an advocate of self-teaching, and just I've learned how to do all sorts of things. I mean, my aquaponics work that I do, I've learned that on my own, and there's been other things that I've done where I was completely self-taught. My brewing work, I became a pretty good brewer when I was a young man. That was all from just teaching myself and experimentation and keeping records and tweaking things along the way.
Sure.
So do you see this as a long-term career going forward? Is this something you could? I think that if you stick with it, you'll achieve mastery. And do some pretty incredible stuff. Do people ever ask you to make things for them?
Yeah, I really haven't. I actually have, come to think of it, quite a bit. People have asked me, can you make me a plant hanger or whatever, and I always say, yes, I can, but they never tell me what they want. I try to. It's hard for them to kind of get that I need instructions on what they want it to look like. I can't just go and build someone a house without a blueprint of what they want it to be like, and people have a hard time coming up with those. So custom work is always harder for people, I think. But I mean, I have sold things to friends, and I've made a little bit of custom stuff. But a lot of it is for me. I do a lot of. I love practicing survival skills out in the woods. I make all my own tools for that, and I do leather work and woodwork, and I make a lot of my own tools for that. And I make a lot of my own. Most of the tools I make are for my blacksmithing, because blacksmith makes his own tools usually. So I make a lot of my own tools, chisels and hole punches and stuff of that nature.
See, you definitely have an off-the-grid lifestyle. Your family as a whole isn't necessarily off the grid, but you are in many ways. So you build like structures like lodges or yes.
Yeah, I love doing that. I do plan on doing blacksmithing forever, but I would like to maybe start teaching survival skills as well. I've looked into that a bit, but I'm more interested. I'm more focused on my blacksmithing work right now.
Right.
But I love primitive skills. There's a lot of different people that have a lot of different views. I like doing it completely primitively. I usually use metal knives, but in a couple of instances I've gone out with nothing. Bare feet. I never wear shoes unless I'm blacksmithing. But me and my friends will go out in the woods and we spent time out there overnight, and I love that too. It's like my second biggest thing that I like to do. And I do a lot of woodwork and leather work too, because I have to make knife handles and sheaths, and doing that has kind of set me onto the path to make other things out of wood. My dad's a woodworker, so I have all the things I could possibly imagine for woodworking, so that's easy. But leather work is also, I very much enjoy that. I like to make my own bags and shoes and stuff like that.
Wow, that's incredible. And will you be selling some of those things too, like your leather work?
Yeah, I definitely go through different phases of liking different things. During the winter, I did a lot of leather work. Experimenting, I was learning. I've never done it before, but I started this winter for making knife sheaths, and I've experimented a lot. So probably next winter-ish, once the snow starts to fall, I'll get more into that again, probably. It really goes with the seasons with what I like to do. I also love winter bushcraft, making things out in the woods in the winter. That's my favorite time. My favorite time of year is the winter.
Yeah, mine too, because I like to go snowboarding, but we haven't had enough snow. We haven't had enough snow around here this year. to get up. I'm really disappointed. That's my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, I see. I love skiing.
What kind of advice can you give to people that want to get into blacksmithing? What's a good starting point?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think a lot of people have a hard time just doing it. They're like, oh, it's a lot of work to get started, but it's really not. And if you want to do something, you should do it. Mm-hmm. And I really think you can do it. Mm-hmm. I did it. I set up my really, quick makeshift forge in 10 minutes, and it got hot enough to easily forge. I think people should just try it. If they like it, they will keep doing it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Are there any books or website sources that you can recommend?
There's a lot of books and websites. I have quite a few. Most blacksmithing books are pretty informational. Almost everything I've learned on the internet is from YouTube.
Yes,
YouTube University. I just suggest going onto YouTube and searching, how to set up a blacksmith forge for beginners. There's a lot of people that do, backyard blacksmithing, as they call it. Mm-hmm. It's really you can use. It's easier for beginners to use gasoline and propane, stuff like that. I use coal because I like to be more traditional. But it's a lot easier, I think, to do propane. It's a lot cheaper too, I'd say.
Oh, really? Where do you source coal from?
We have a local farm store that sells it, and they sell it for heating in the winter, but I use it for my forge.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I wouldn't even know where to get coal where I'm at. I'm sure somebody has it.
Not at Amazon sometimes, or Home Depot. Hardware stores usually carry it, stuff like that.
Uh-huh. Incredible. And what kind of metal do you usually work with?
I use a lot of the metal I get is from junkyards. Our local dump has a junkyard, and they let us take the metal there for free. Uh-huh. So I'm in a really good position. But I use high carbon steel for my knives, and for other things I use mild steel. High carbon steel holds a better edge. It is stronger, and mild steel. I guess mild steel is a bit stronger, but it really doesn't hold an edge. It's harder, but it's more brittle. So whatever. We won't get into the atomic level of all of it, but I use lawnmower blades is what I use for my knives. I chop those in half, and I use half for each knife, usually. Those are abundant here. That's really good steel. It's really easy to find, usually, so. I've
always been fascinated by Damascus blades, where they fold the metal over and over again. Have you ever tried anything like that?
I haven't yet. I've just started learning how to weld with the forge because I never was able to get it that hot, but I'm finally doing it. I've started making axe heads and things like that where you have to weld. And I am confident that I could do it now. It just requires a lot of work that,
They're just so beautiful. They're incredibly beautiful blades.
They are amazing.
I've seen.
It takes a lot of time, patience, which I definitely do. And another thing is getting all that metal takes a while. I have to have different types of metal for that. And it's hard it's really difficult to tell the exact carbon content of metal that I get from the dump.
Right, that's true.
I have to guess, and it's really hard to test that stuff exactly, so.
Right, you're just working with what you have available. And you even refurbish tools, too.
Yeah, I mean, I fix my own tools that break. I fixed some of my father's tools that I have broken too. But yeah, I like to make. I wanted to make my own gardening tools this year. I never got around to doing that, but I'd like to next year. Because we have a huge garden, and I thought it'd be cool to make my own tools for that. But we already have some, so until we run out.
Right. Well, and I think that would be an opportunity for another line of products that you could add to your current lineup.
Just recently, I've become interested in making, medieval European, Scandinavian weapons. I've been making a lot of spears and pole arms and things of that nature.
Uh-huh. Have you
So I might start.
have you
Oh, go
hunted?
ahead.
Have you done any hunting with?
I want to. I don't have any family members or anyone that would like to take me hunting.
Uh-huh.
I can't for another year till I get my license. I'm going to get it immediately, probably before my driver's license. I want to go out and bow hunting. I've made my own bow before. It broke because it was bad wood, but I'm going to try to make a good bow soon.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't believe in hunting with guns. I don't think it's respectful. So I want to go bow hunting, maybe spear hunting. That's a little bit more intense.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
About 11 hours usually goes into that. Yeah, I have to wake up real early and stalk it for a long time because humans have more stamina than animals.
Right.
They're quicker, but as long as you keep following them, they'll eventually tire out and you can stab them. That's down the road more. I'd like to start bow hunting now, though.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I would right now if I could, but I can't.
So we just have a few minutes remaining here.
Mm-hmm.
What other areas of study are you getting into? I think it's just great that you could just focus on what you want to get into, and so what's your next project?
I honestly don't know. I'm very focused on my blacksmithing right now. I want to start getting into more primitive leather work. I want to get into hide tanning, but I can't hunt yet, so it's difficult to find those. And I'd like to soon make my own set of winter clothes that are completely natural. So animal skins. I have a lot of animal skins saved up for that. But I really don't know. Honestly, I never plan for it. I'll just wake up one day and be like, I think I'm going to do this today. And then I usually get interested in it and do it for a couple months. So,
well, Devin, you are definitely living an off-the-grid lifestyle. So, when the collapse comes, I think you'll be well prepared.
I am. I have a bug-out bag and everything.
But in the meantime, I think you're developing some great life skills, and